It is my pleasure now to introduce Major General Greg Melick. Greg had over 50 years service from the Army Reserve at nearly every level from private to Major General. He is president of the Australian Commando Association. He's deputy president of the Tasmanian Minister of Appeals Tribunal, chief commissioner of the Tasmanian Integrity Commission, and was elected national president of the Return and Services League of Australia on the 30th of May 2019. In his spare time, Major General Melick is a Hobart-based senior counsel and a prominent wine producer. So would you please welcome Major General Greg Melick, who will discuss current issues affecting veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. What I thought I'd do is give a rundown on the RSL and what we're noting with veterans and what we're doing. Firstly, the RSL is well over 100 years old, has 160,000 members, only 140,000 different opinions amongst those 160,000 members, and 1,192 sub-branches scattered throughout Australia. Unfortunately, over 75% of our membership is over 70, so we really do need to attract some younger veterans. The role of the national office is representation, lobbying, and coordination. The states deliver the services, although we coordinate them. We have really good access to the Prime Minister, relevant ministers, and it's pleasing to note that both the Minister for Defence and the new Minister for Veterans Affairs both called me within a matter of 1 or 2 days of their appointments. We have been successful in lobbying on such matters as increased payments for mental health professionals, because when the NDIA increased their rates to greater than what veterans were getting, it caused a bit of a problem. And also the Prime Minister agreed to lift the APS caps for DVA only to allow them to overcome the problem of 42% of their staff being casual and veterans not being able to continually speak to the same person. We've been advocating, we present evidence to Defence Honours and Awards on a regular basis, and we've been strongly advocating for the government to do more to assist Afghan citizens who assisted the coalition forces. Many veterans have contacted us and are quite concerned about what's happening with their former friends and associates over there. The veterans have a multiplicity of problems and issues. Part of the problem is the complexity of the legislation. You have the MERCA, the DRA, the Veterans Entitlement Act, and varying regimes under each of the acts. It gets complicated because when we try to combine the acts, veterans organisations say we want the best of every act, and of course we can't afford that, or the government can't afford that. We have a situation where some veterans will have 110% disability because they're getting various allocations under each of the acts, which is obviously not the way it's designed to work. Obviously, there are mental health issues with veterans, and there are a lot of very angry veterans out there. The social media sites are rampant with ill-informed and aggressive comments, which are unhelpful. Because of my stance on the Royal Commission, my view was that we should have a permanent commission which could enforce its own recommendations. I was vilified, and there was a online petition was drawn up to force my resignation. I think my wife signed it over 1,000 times. It's the problem of the noisy minority rather than the silent majority, and we've just got to be careful to try to work hard to work out just what the issues affecting veterans are. We rely upon what comes up through our sub-branches. Part of the problem is that there are a lot of veterans welfare groups which have very narrow focuses, and it gets very difficult trying to satisfy everybody. We have over 1,300 veterans organisations in Australia. Some people say it might be as high as 5,000, and some of them are very small, and others are medium-sized, and of course we're by far the largest. We work closely with ESORT and the Australian Defence Welfare Association and Legacy, most of which our aims are very similar. So the major issues now is a preoccupation with the Royal Commission. There is a vast disparity of views about what the Royal Commission should be attempting to achieve. There are those who think it should be identifying people who should be punished. They want to limit the inquiries to what's happened to a person when they've been in the Defence Force and or with interaction with DVA. But as most people realise, mental health issues are multifaceted and quite complex, and whole of life experiences are relevant. If we're going to be serious about properly identifying causes and addressing them, we have to look at individuals' whole of life experiences to see what causes need to be addressed and what can be done in a better way in the future. We all know that transition has been a major problem, and I've got to say that the work that's been done by Natasha Fox and her team, including Wade Stoddart, has been fantastic. The improvement has been dramatic, but unfortunately people still refer back to the way it was 10 years ago and continually criticise Defence for not doing enough on the transition side of the house. It's a pity that veterans are often take notice of old information or a rant on social media rather than properly informing themselves. And that's one of the issues we try to address on our website and our press releases. But I have a feeling that the RSL website's not exactly top of the pops with young veterans. Other issues that we have in the RSL, which affects the veterans wanting to contact us, the perceptions about the fact we rely upon gambling, especially in the New South Wales clubs. People don't realise that in 1974, the clubs were compulsorily separated from the RSL sub-branches. And even though the clubs use the name RSL, they have no connection with it, or very little connection with the RSL, and the RSL gets very little money from them. Some of them give a grace and favour room for RSL sub-branches meetings, and some provide a small amount of cash. Part of the problem is that a lot of the wealthier RSL sub-branches are sitting on substantial amounts of money, which they won't give up because they think they know better how to spend it. And we have significant problems with sub-branch boards who are not appropriately qualified and don't have the necessary mix of skills, doing deals with developers and leaving significant sums of money on the table. And if the money was properly coordinated by a state branch, it would be far more effectively used. So we have the problem of being a national organisation, a federated organisation, in which every member thinks they should have a say. And before I put out a press release or answer a query from the media, there's a feeling amongst many members they all should be consulted and have a say or vote on what exactly we should say. Obviously, that's impractical. And that then does cause us some problems with younger veterans who have very firm views about issues, unfortunately, many of which are not properly informed, which exacerbates some of the stresses between us and them. We're aware at the moment a lot of veterans out there are hurting because of, firstly, the apparent lack of speed or for government action to get people who worked with the coalitions out of Afghanistan. Afghanistan's deteriorating at a far greater rate than many people anticipated, and that's causing a lot of angst. And we're also aware that a lot of really very concerned as the Royal Commission approaches as to how they're going to deal with what comes out, the publicity. Many people contacted and said they didn't want a Royal Commission, they didn't want it over the front page because it'll only bring back terrible memories. I have some concerns about that as well, because I've been involved in a considerable number of PTSD cases for both police officers, ambulance officers and veterans, and the inquisitorial and or adversarial processes undertaken by a court or commission often cause significant problems. So we're encouraging all our people, in fact we've put out a website announcement again today, encouraging people to check on their mates, especially with the deteriorating situation in Afghanistan, and refer people to local RSL sub-branches who are working in conjunction with Open Arms to assist people with any mental health issues. And as far as what you can do to help, please encourage as many younger members as you can to join and have a say and take over from all the old people like me who are trying to run the organisation. I think, subject to questions, that's about all I want to say at the moment.
Thank you, Greg. Well, I don't think we'll go to question time at the moment because we need to wrap this session up today. But I'd just like to make one mention, and that is that the inclusion on the recent census form of whether you had service, permanent or part-time service in the Australian Defence Force is an important initiative. And I'd like to thank in particular our Senior Vice President, Major General Ian Flowerth, who in his previous role was the one that drove this through to get the Commonwealth statisticians okay, DVA and Defence and agreement from Defence to this important initiative, which was in the last census form. So thank you very much, Ian, for the role that you played in doing that.
Sorry, Paul, I should note, checking RSL board minutes, we've been pushing this for over 20 years and getting nowhere. So thanks, Ian.
Okay, thank you.